Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jocelyn, and today we are going to be talking about presentation anxiety.
If you guys are not already, make sure you subscribe to the channel because I'm really trying to grow my channel and it means a lot. And also hit the like button because it does things for the algorithm.
For those of you guys who don't know, which is probably most of you who are watching this video, I have decently bad anxiety, especially when it comes to presenting in front of a live audience. Which may seem weird since I make videos of myself talking and post them on YouTube. But the second I actually have to get up in front of people where people can live watch me and I can't just edit out all of my mistakes, I get super nervous, my heart starts going, everything is bad. I have actual anxiety about it, not just stress. Over the years, I found a way to be decently good presenter, at least in my opinion. And I kind of wanted to share some of those tips and tricks with you guys, especially because this month is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, and so I think it's an important time to talk about mental health and anxiety and stuff. And I'm just going to talk about it specifically when it comes to presentations in school, since I try and make most of my channel about MIT and work in school and that type of stuff. So I really tried to come up with things that I authentically do and not just tips that you can research on the internet, because obviously if you Google, you'll find stupid things like imagine everyone in their underwear, etc. And so all of the advice that I'm going to give you guys is genuinely from my heart, what I actually do to prepare and to give a presentation. And it's not anything that I Googled on the internet, so let's get into it. First thing, after you make your slides and everything to start your presentation, write a script for everything that you want to say word for word, but then when you're actually practicing giving your presentation ahead of time, don't read that script whatsoever. Because I found that if you write a script and then follow it exactly, even if your script is only bullet points, if the entire time you're practicing, even on your first try, you're reading those bullet points, the second you mentally deviate from those bullet points, your brain freaks out and goes, oh no, I missed a bullet, I skipped a word, and then your brain cycles through that repetitive nature of I messed up, I messed up, I messed up, I messed up. And the rest of your presentation, you have that thought in the back of your head. Whereas if you write a script, you know what you want to say, but then when you practice, you just speak straight from the heart and just
Speak straight from the heart.
Sounds really dramatic. But if you just speak straight from your mind and think about things as you go, you can then use your script to check and make sure you hit all the points that you want to. But you're practicing saying things authentically and you'll say it a little bit differently every single time. And so then when you're up on stage, any change of order of presenting or something won't throw you off that much because you've had to think of every single sentence authentically from the start. Preparation really is key, so doing this is a good way just to prevent your brain from psyching itself out. Next piece of advice, as you're preparing, ask your friends to read over your slides, it's best if you can practice presenting in front of your friends, but I know a lot of people don't feel comfortable doing that. I, for one, absolutely hate presenting in front of my friends because I feel like I'm being a burden to them, and also I get anxious just presenting in front of my friends, so I don't want to do it. If you're like me, you should just send the slides to your friends and have them read them through and make them come up with 2 or 3 questions that they have after reading your slides that they would want to know after hearing your presentation. Even if they really don't know that much about the subject matter, this is super helpful because A, you had someone make sure you didn't make stupid mistakes in your slides, and B, a lot of the questions your friends have, even if they're in totally different fields than you, will be similar questions that your audience is going to want to 100% make sure that they get answered during the presentation. And so this will prepare you better to make sure you're giving a comprehensive understanding of your slides, and B, you're going to be prepared for that Q&A. Going in feeling confident that you can nail the Q&A at the end will help boost your confidence at the beginning. There's been so many times where questions that my friends had were actually things that I had to incorporate into the presentation itself, and also times when people ask that exact same question in the audience and I was like, I got this, I know exactly where I'm going with this question. Even if you're still really, really nervous to give that answer, at least you have an answer. Don't deviate from your normal amount of caffeine, sleep, whatever else you normally do on a daily basis from the time you wake up in the morning to the time of your presentation. This is something I really struggle with and have to actively continue reminding myself to do every single presentation. I have a really bad habit of not sleeping super great the night before a presentation and then drinking a lot of caffeine throughout the day in order to try and make up for that. But caffeine makes you really jittery, and caffeine actually can compound your anxiety. So there's a lot of research that showed that if you have ADD or some anxiety, a little bit of caffeine can really like help calm those nerves and make them feel better, but there's a threshold of caffeine, which is different for every person, that you hit that makes all of these symptoms a lot worse. And so if on presentation day you were too nervous to sleep the night before and you start drinking tons more caffeine than you already did, you are going to be shaky, your anxiety is going to be worse, and you're going to just compound all of your issues. As far as sleeping the right amount, I know that's hard. I do have insomnia. I can't really sleep when I'm nervous about something, but still try and go to bed at the same time you normally do, wake up at the same time you normally do. Because anytime you're keeping routine, you're telling your body that there's nothing to be anxious about, and you're trying to condition your body into feeling okay going into the presentation. A lot of the tips that work for me are literally just conditioning your body that there's nothing wrong and conditioning your body that it's a normal everyday situation. That leads me into my next point. Dress in a way that makes you feel confident. If you're the type of person, and obviously this depends on the class or the work presentation or whatever it is, like there's some days where you're presenting where you are gonna have to dress up and maybe that's a little bit outside of your comfort zone. But if you're not in a situation where you're being forced to dress up, don't dress up anyways if that's not gonna make you feel super confident. If you feel great in a dress or a suit, go for that. But if you're feeling your absolute best in jeans and like a t-shirt and you don't have a requirement for the way you're supposed to dress, honestly, do that. I'm a really big believer that if you're dressing in the style that makes you feel the most comfortable, then you are going to be the best at your presentation because, like I said, you're conditioning your body not to overthink it. This brings me to when you walk into the room for your actual presentation. Number one tip for this, make sure, if possible, you try and present first. I know this may seem a lot scarier. A lot of times you don't want to be that first volunteer and you want to see how other people do. Well, at the end of the day, there's nothing you can do to adjust your presentation while you're sitting there in the room waiting to present. And so you might as well go first because honestly, you can't make changes, and hearing other people go, whether they're good or bad, is only gonna psych you out. If the person that goes before you nails it, you're gonna be in your head thinking that you can't do as well as they can, which is a lie, but you have anxiety or you wouldn't be here. And B, if they go first and absolutely suck, you're going to be in your head thinking about how if they suck, then you're gonna be even worse. So really no advantage to going second whatsoever. Also, if you're like me, you're gonna be sitting there for their entire presentation, unable to focus because you're gonna be so worried about your own presentation and you're gonna work yourself up to a state that's really just not where you wanna be in life. And so going first will make you potentially a little bit more stressed walking in the room, but then you can nail it, get out of the way, and then actually feel a little bit less stressed out watching the rest of the presentations that day. Another thing that I actually learned really recently that's huge when giving presentations if you're nervous is bring a glass of water up with you that you can take sips of during the presentation, especially if it's a longer presentation. As you guys know from watching these videos, I have a habit of talking really, really fast, and sometimes my voice gets way ahead of my actual brain, and I can't find ways to finish what I'm saying fast enough for the words to come out of my mouth. Yes, I know I need to work on slowing down, and that has been something that I've super been focusing on whenever I give presentations lately. But B, there's times where you just forget something and panic. And having a drink that you can take a sip of gives you that nice couple seconds that you have time to gather yourself without furthering your panic. Because that drink break is normally thought of as perfectly acceptable, and no one's gonna be like,
oh, she doesn't know what she's doing.
They're all just gonna be like,
oh, her throat probably got tired from talking.
No one's gonna really think that much about it. And so it's a really great way to take an extended pause, gather yourself, remember what you forgot, without making it seem weird. Number 7, this is kind of my take on the imagine everyone in their underwear trope. But what I like to do when I give a presentation is scout the group ahead of time a little bit and find either A, the least judgmental person in the room, or B, the person who never paid attention during any presentations and just like look like they're about to fall asleep. And that is who you focus on during the presentation. There is always in every single group one person who really just did not want to be there, does not give a shit about anyone's presentation, and isn't gonna react if you make a fool of yourself. because they weren't listening. And so I actually find that focusing on that person is really, really helpful, because then it's almost as if you're talking just like to a camera, like I am to you guys right now, or to yourself in an empty bedroom, because they're not listening. And focusing on them and then almost like imagining it as everyone is them is really settling for me, because then I feel much more at peace, and I feel like it doesn't really matter what I say, and there's no reason to be anxious about talking, because no one cares and nobody's listening to me. And focusing on the least judgmental person is also a really similar thing, because a lot of times their facial expressions won't change a lot, and so then you don't have to be constantly reading people and trying to see what they're thinking about what you're saying. And finally, my last tip for all of you guys is just kind of more of a general thing, but I'm a really big believer in both power posing and meditation. Power posing before you go in is when you like stand, hands on your hips, look very confidently, and just breathe, like mentally meditate, think about how great you're gonna do. For me, it's really big. I thought it was dumb at first, but actually after doing it, it really does give you a lot of confidence in a really weird way. And meditation is kind of the same way. I'm a huge believer that meditation helps with my anxiety. It's like definitely an acquired thing, I would say. At first I would try to meditate and it would just make my anxiety go crazy for like the 5 minutes that I was trying to do it, because I'd just be thinking over every little bad thing and freaking out about why I couldn't push everything out of my head. But once you get into the habit of meditation, start practicing it, it really is absolutely incredible for settling you and making you feel more at peace. I recommend power posing regardless of whether you have experience with meditation or not. And then I do recommend that you start a meditation program, maybe not right before your presentation, but just in general, right now when you're watching this, start trying to meditate, start with just 5 minutes a day, and it truly will make such a huge difference on your psyche. Alright, those are all the tips I have for you guys. Hopefully you find some of this helpful. If you also struggle with presentation anxiety or anxiety in general, let me know in the comments what you do, because we can all learn and grow from each other and then become masters of the presentation. Also, I know I mentioned this earlier, but this week is National Suicide Awareness Week. If you are struggling, make sure you reach out. Therapy, friends, anything. It's really important to get help, and we all want you here and we all love you. I will link some resources in the description box for that. Yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching. I really, really appreciate you guys making it all the way to the end of the video. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, and I will see you guys next week with another video.